Okay, I'm just gonna put this out there straight away. Shang Chi is amazing. I mean, if you love martial arts movies and you love the MCU, then what's not to love here, right? It's a beautiful movie and has some of the best fight scenes that we've seen in the MCU to date. Now, I might be a bit biased because some of the movies I grew up with were movies like Drunken Master and Born Invincible, to name just a couple of my favorites. Martial arts movies were a commonplace in my household, and then of course you had to go outside and act out the moves. It's because of this that Shang-Chi left me smiling from beginning to end. Again, this is Marvel Studios taking one of their even lesser known characters who really hasn't had a proper chance to even shine in the comics, usually being relegated to being part of a team. But a great character nonetheless, and making the audience love them whilst making them a household name. Directed by Destin Cretton and starring Simu Liu, Awkwafina and Tony Leung, Shang-Chi sees the master of martial arts confront his past as he attempts to step out of his father's shadow. The audience is introduced to Wenwu, or the real Mandarin, from the very start, and shown the power of the Ten Rings and the history of this shadowy organization. You might remember the Ten Rings from the Iron Man movies, and this is brought up quite cleverly in Shang-Chi, especially with the mention of a certain name. We're then brought to present day where we see Shang-Chi living an ordinary life, but the movie wastes no time in turning things up, and we're quickly thrown into the action. And there is a lot of action in this film, which is blended well with more quiet moments where we get to know more about each of the characters and their family dynamic. Tony Leung's Wenwu sort of steals the show, and we're really given a villain who has more depth to them than just wanting to take over the world or destroy something for the sake of it. You might dislike him because he's the villain, but he's a more complex character and you'll understand why he's doing what he's doing. Awkwafina is undeniably very likable in this one, and the perfect companion who brings some levity and at times more emotional moments to this mystical and often crazy journey. I wouldn't be doing this movie any justice if I didn't mention just how beautiful it is, and we've never really seen this level of choreography in the MCU before. Some scenes reminded me of movies like House of Flying Daggers or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Combined with the music, you really have a strong Asian influence which runs throughout this movie, especially in the second half. Shang-Chi really is a joy to watch. The last act really amps things up even more and ran the risk of getting a bit too crazy, falling into the typical comic book movie tropes. But I think it all works, and if there's one thing I'm surprised about, it's just about how little the trailers and the promotional material gave away. Shang-Chi not only does a great job of introducing the audience to a brand new character, but also bringing us into a world within an already established universe effortlessly. Think the way that the Black Panther movie worked at introducing the world to Wakanda, but keeping that very sort of intimate, but within obviously this larger MCU universe. That's what Shang-Chi does, and it does it really well. And let's face it, Shang-Chi's comic book origins weren't the most interesting, but they were able to add an extra layer of depth to his character, thanks in part to Tony Leung's excellent performance. And if there's one thing I would have liked more of, it would be to see more of Shang-Chi himself, but I suppose that's what sequels are for, right, Marvel Studios? The action is top notch with some amazing up-close choreographed fights, mixed with more emotional beats where we get to understand each of the characters' motivations. And the whole cast do a great job of bringing the story to life. Simu Liu clearly has a bright future in the MCU, and for me, Shang-Chi is not only one of the best movies in this cinematic universe, but also one of the best comic book origin stories that I've seen. Much like I found with the more recent Black Widow, Shang-Chi doesn't feel like a usual Marvel movie. It has its own unique identity, which is something I feel we'll be seeing a lot more of in future MCU movies. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is out now in cinemas and will be making its way to Disney Plus before the end of the year. Have you seen it yet? What did you think? You know what to do, leave your comments in the section below, hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe for more of this. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.